Many people are absolutely terrified to buy used BMW on online sources like Facebook Marketplace. Most people get shy of buying a used BMW at all. I've always had to ask the question, is it got a blown turbo? How's the transmission shift? What about those window regulators and coolant leaks? Are any of your car's problems on that list? Well, that's a lot of issues that a lot of people are concerned with. It could cost thousands of dollars out of their pocket. But from my own personal experience, there are 5 great BMWs on the used car market from the 80s all the way up to current generation that are definitely worth the risk. They're affordable, they're simple, they're easy to maintain, and they're reliable. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. Now, personally, as an owner of many used BMWs, I've never purchased one brand new, but I've always concerned myself with the engines, the transmissions, as well as some of the problematic areas like air ride suspension and problems with electronics. I've worried myself to death over researching a lot of these types of engines and drivetrains, because that's why BMW's garnered a bad name. Somebody buys the wrong car, and next thing you know, they just hate the brand from top to bottom. There are, in fact, some great engines, great gearboxes, and some amazing cars. Let's get into the first model. I've personally owned these, and I love them. It's the E46 3 Series BMW that ran from about 1999 to 2006. That represents one of the oldest, outgoing, simplest formats that BMW's ever run. Many consider these just to be modern enough so that you can still get parts, replacement components, maintenance is still relatively easy as well. We don't have turbos, and it's the naturally aspirated engines that we love. It also does not have direct injected engines, and you can also get manual or automatics. But there's 2 engines. One is my favorite. The M52TU is one of the engines. It's an inline 6-cylinder engine. It is absolutely bulletproof. But by a long shot, the most durable engine is the M54, and that runs from about 2000 to 2006. Absolutely a workhorse, simple, easy, durable, and just stay ahead of any kind of coolant issues. That engine is robust beyond a fault. In the E46 generation of BMWs, you can get 2 different transmissions. You can get a 5-speed automatic ZF, which is solid, but you've got to do the servicing, otherwise they can be problematic. And the other one is a ZF or Getrag transmission, which is also 5-speed, and that's my personal preference. I love going with a manual gearbox. Always row your own gear, especially in the older BMWs. It gives you the rawest, best driving experience you could possibly imagine. The beauty is these are highly affordable and robust. You can find nice examples anywhere from $5,000 to about $10,000 US, with the super clean ones with reasonable miles closer to 10K. That's not a lot of money when you consider even say a 2012, 2013 Honda Civic is going to cost you the same kind of money. What's not to love about a used BMW that's as reliable as a Toyota or a Honda? Not much to hate on there. A couple of things I really enjoyed about my E46. It's got a very DIY friendly engine bay. You can get in there and you can service just about anything with your own hand tools at home. It doesn't need specialized diagnostic equipment. You need very few specialized BMW tools, and really largely with that basic toolbox, you can fix these cars from top to bottom very simply on your own driveway. Many of these engines, especially the M54, have been known to run 350,000 kilometers. That's 250,000 miles without even batting a lash. That's all you really ask for. That said, there's a few things to be concerned with. And if you're out shopping for one of these E46s, understand there's 3 major areas. And I'm going to share the specific price tag associated with retrofitting and repairing some of these problems. A cooling system overhaul may cost you $800 to $1,500. That might be water pumps, thermostats, the overflow reservoir, radiators, and some of the cooling lines. Those are the areas that tend to crack, split, they leak a little bit. You have to overhaul those. It might cost you $1,500, maybe even slightly more if you're getting the dealer to do it. But a lot of these are very DIY friendly, and that means you can save thousands of dollars. And while you're doing that, you can also do a coolant flush, might as well do some of your fluid changes, and it represents a great weekend on the driveway through which most of those parts and many of those repairs can be done by yourself. And the Vanos system, which is BMW's name for variable valve timing, may need some resealing, some rebuilds, and that might cost you in that $1,000 to $1,500 range, and those are not uncommon. If those go off the rails, you'll know. Maybe lacks the throttle response, or it might lose its breathing capability up top. You'll know it's a drivability issue. It just won't feel like it's got the energy that it once did. That may in fact be your Vanos system. $1,000, maybe $1,200, maybe $1,500 at the most if you're going to the dealer to get it fixed. And one of the most visited common issues that a lot of people are starting to see with some of the E46 are the rear subframe cracks. A lot of people talk about that, especially in corrosive environments, lots of salt on the roads, or hard use, track use. Sometimes the rear subframe has been known to crack. If that's the issue, it might be a little bit more involved to get some people to get in there and weld it, get your favorite welder. Might cost you $2,000, $2,500 to fix it with some welding. But beyond that, do a good inspection on a pre-purchase inspection. Is it leaking coolant? Has it had good service history? Does it drive nicely? It might cover the Vanos issues. And do an inspection. Make sure that PPI is done by your favorite mechanic to look for those rear subframe cracks. If there are no issues, the E46 is absolutely legendary with some of the longest lasting engines you could possibly dream of. The second model comes from a generation, one of my personal favorites, that ran from 1997 to about 2003, and even the M5 from that generation represents one of the most authentic driving experiences with angel eyes, the kidney grills, and it absolutely was built like a tank, almost overbuilt. Most people would suggest that this was one of the most structurally sound and best built BMWs in modern history, and we're talking about the E39 BMWs. Now, the M5 isn't necessarily the most robust. It's fun, it's rev happy, and it's a great engine. But for maximum durability and the least risk on the used car market, looking on Facebook Marketplace and beyond, there's a couple of engines. The M52 is the early engine. The best one is the M54, which we already spoke of over in the 3 Series, which overlapped with that particular model too. We did have two distinctive different transmissions. 5-speed ZF automatic, which was a little problematic if you neglected or abused it and you didn't do your maintenance, and the 5-speed manual gearbox, which was my personal favorite, robust beyond a fault. And nicely sorted, well-maintained E39s here in 2026 are going to range anywhere from about $6,000 to about $12,000. Keeping in mind, of course, the lower the mileage, the better car with better records is going to be a much lower risk. Most owners appreciate the E39 because it's much smoother, quieter, feels even better bolted together than the E46, which is the 3 Series car. The engines are seriously under-stressed, long-lasting. They're not working hard like a lot of modern-day engines. Everybody's going with these 2-liter turbo engines that are working their bag off, overstressed, direct injected, loading up with carbon, and they're just not built to last like these older engines. But as always, with everything as it ages, there are failures. You can expect cooling system issues like thermostats, water pumps. I even had to do some of that work on my own car. But you know what? You can expect to replace some of those components, cooling lines, and some of those T-stat parts, $1,000 to about $2,000 to pretty much overhaul your cooling system, give it a good flush. Oil leaks. You know, there's gaskets everywhere. It could cost you $500, $2,000, maybe $3,000. So it's very prudent to actually make sure you do a proper pre-purchase inspection, looking for oil leaks from cam housings, valve cover gaskets, and a plethora of other locations that could potentially leak oil. Get a good pre-purchase inspection done, and it just means that much less to spend. If you do happen to have a ZF automatic transmission failure, expect to pay $3,000 to $5,000 to fix that up. If you do have a transmission failure, or you know one that you're shopping for has a slip or a bad problem with it, make sure you negotiate that $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 into the price. If they're asking otherwise a premium looking car that's clean and they're asking 10 grand, say, look, it's going to cost me $3,000, $4,000 to retrofit that. If in fact that transmission's failed, then of course you can maybe buy that car for $5,000 or $6,000, knowing full well that you're going to take it and get it overhauled. Next thing you know, you've got a beautifully well-sorted transmission and a car for under 10 grand. Absolutely magnificent specimen of a BMW. One of my personal favorites is the E39. Now the third is truly one of my favorites. Probably the latest generation of simple BMWs. Actually utilizes some of the best naturally aspirated drivetrains. Unfortunately, the E90 generation also has some of the problematic engines like the N54 and transition to the N55. That's when all the turbo failures and the explosive nature of some of these problem engines really started occurring. There's no shortage of N54 powered cars. Look at the 335s all over social media and the platforms. Sure, they're tunable, but they're expensive to fix and maintain. If you're looking for a durable, long-lasting BMW in the E90 generation, stay away from those turbo engines. Go with some of the most reliable, naturally aspirated inline 6-cylinder engines, and you're good to go. If you're shopping for an E90, look from 2006 to about 2011 and stick with the N52 engine only. That means there's no turbos. It's like some of the older school engines that are just built to last 300,000 miles plus. The beauty with these E90s is now you've stepped up, you get an extra cog. That's right, 6-speed ZF automatic transmission, absolutely a workhorse. It doesn't need its fluid change. Make sure it's been serviced and it works properly when you do your test drive. But my personal favorite is now we're getting a 6-speed manual gearbox. That's where I step up. In the E90, my personal favorite is the 330 or the 328 BMWs with the manual transmission. They're unstoppable. Just make sure they don't have significant leaks, both coolant and oil. Then you've got yourself a car that's built for lasting lasting a long, long time. The beauty is these are cheap like borscht, $5,000 to $11,000 for your average E90 BMW. Again, skip on any of the 335s, skip on the turbos, stay with the NA engines, and you're good to go. Now, of course, there's always going to be a few things like valve cover leaks, oil filter housing leaks, pan gasket leaks. Those are areas that any car is going to leak. It doesn't matter if it's a BMW or a Honda or Toyota. You show me a 10-year-old Toyota that doesn't leak oil somewhere, and I'll show you $25 million. I wish. But valve cover leaks and gaskets, expect to spend as much as $1,000 if you have a problem. Oil filter housing leaks, $300 to $800. I actually resealed my N54. I should listen to my own advice, but I know better now because I owned one and it's a total mess. But the oil filter housing gaskets do leak, and mine did too. It was no different. Fortunately, I was able to do the retrofit myself and I saved a ton of money. One of the biggest drawbacks of this generation in the E90 is they went to an electric water pump. They are problematic and they will fail, and many of these cars will only get 50 to 60,000 miles before you need to do a water pump. The problem is they are not compatible with heat and extra wear and tear, so they are going to deteriorate. And the problem is they're underneath the engine. You have to jack it up. It's a significant amount of labor. If you are looking at retrofitting a water pump, make sure you do the thermostat at the same time because they're basically bolted together and it'll save you a ton of money. Expect to spend anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 if you do it yourself. You get the dealer to do it, it might cost you anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500, especially on the turbo cars. But that's why skip the turbos, go with the NA and the N52, and you're good. Many true enthusiasts truly do believe the E90, E92 generation of the 3 Series BMW is arguably the most reliable BMW ever produced, without going with the turbos. Of course, as I keep reiterating, you will get one of the most reliable and modern feeling BMWs. Slightly more tech, not so problematic, but without the turbos, these are true gems. But maybe you want old school. You don't want electric water pumps, you don't want Vanos systems, you don't want turbos. Guess what? The oldest, most durable, simplistic BMW is the E30 generation from the 80s. 1982 to 1994 is where you'll find some of those little gems. The M10, which is an inline 4, or the M20, which is an inline 6, are both total workhorses. The 5-speed manual gearbox is bulletproof, but people are starting to figure these cars out. That's why the prices, even though it's an older BMW, are starting to creep up. $8,000 to as much as $25,000 for a nicely sorted, reworked BMW E30. Yes, from the 80s? Who knew? Forget about the M3. High-strung, huge cost and expense. You pretty much missed the market on that, but you don't need those. Go with something like a 325e or a 325 IS, and those are some of the best cars. Some people like the 318 because it's a little lighter, a little simpler in the 4-cylinder. Either way, with that made it up to that 5-speed, they are a gem and a workhorse. These are, in fact, going to be the cheapest BMWs you're going to find on the used market. They're easy to DIY. They are easy to fix. But age-related issues like ball joints and bushings, and of course brakes, and even rust and corrosion could creep in there. So that's why a well-sorted car that's been well looked after and maybe spent most of its life down south in the drier climates are probably the best place to start. Rust repair could run you $2,000 to $10,000 to get it done properly at an appropriate shop. The cooling system overhaul may cost you anywhere from $500 to about $1,500, and the suspension overhaul may be $1,000 to $2,000, maybe $2,500 if you've got to go all the way around and do the brakes at the same time. I personally love the E30. I always have. I had friends that have run those. I've personally never owned them, but I had one buddy that had a 325e and another buddy that had a 325 IS, and they were both great gems. The E was a little torquier. It was a great driving unit, but the IS had that top-end breathing. It was a better sporty performance driving experience. Either way, you can't go wrong with any E30. Just make sure it doesn't have rust and it's been well looked after. Now, number 5 goes to something that's fairly late model. Many people talk about the G series. I feel like they're quite expensive. They can be reliable because the B48 and the B58, but I'm going to extend this back. Skip the G series. They're huge money. If you're looking for something older and used on Facebook Marketplace, let's talk about the F series as a very popular platform. That said, skip the N20. The early generation Turbo 4s, garbage. Timing chain piling up, guide ramps piling up, coolant leaks, water pump problems. Don't bother with those. Go with the later generations that actually introduced, finally, the B48 in the later models of the F-Series BMWs. So the F30 that ran from the 2012 to 2018 is a great modern-day BMW. Many consider it actually the most reliable modern-day BMW. The best engines are the B48, of course, that's the 4-cylinder, and many others consider the B58, which is the turbo inline 6-cylinder engine, which is truly a gem, but it's going to be a lot more money to get into those. The only drawback with the F-Series, you can't get a manual gearbox anymore. That's right, exclusively a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, the good news is those are some of the most reliable autos that BMW and actually the whole industry has ever witnessed. It predicts your movements, it understands what you want to drive, it adapts to your driving style, it actually is reliable, it's packaged well, it's small, compact, powerful, can take on a lot of torque, and truly is one of the pure gems in the automotive sector. The F30s, you're going to spend anywhere from $12,000 to about $25,000 to get yourself a relatively low mileage, decent quality example. Timing chains, a big problem. I already mentioned on the N20, the early generations might cost you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It could cost you a whole engine. If you neglect it, it starts to rattle and it skips a cog and you blow the engine altogether. So be careful. The N20s, I wouldn't advise. It's an engine I would say steer away from. If you are going to buy one, just know that you're expecting a significant repair to get ahead of that problem. Cooling system woes, constantly a BMW conversation with water pumps, thermostats, radiators, and cooling lines that snap together. You're going to expect anywhere from $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 to retrofit if you're starting to develop some leaks. But now you have other issues. Turbochargers, $1,500 to $3,500 because now we're into turbo land. These are not as reliable as some of the older gems that I already spoke of. The E90 is probably some of the most reliable with the N52, but if you want a late model BMW, this is probably one of the most reliable. That said, turbos are going to be a potential issue. Wastegate rattles, anything related to the turbo is going to add extra complexity. Direct fuel injection, of course, might add other things like carbon fouling, extra maintenance every 50 to 60,000 miles to do some carbon fouling cleanup, as well as walnut blasting. So these are a little bit more maintenance intensive. They are still one of the most reliable late model BMWs you can get your hands on, but they are going to come at a cost. You're going to spend more to buy these, more to maintain them. They're not perfect. Let's be honest. Is anything perfect these days? So I'm going to share in another video some of the worst BMWs you're going to want to avoid like the plague. If you're shopping on Facebook Marketplace or anywhere online or any other online source or even your local dealership, I will get to that on another video. But for now, right there is the best BMWs. If you're looking at buying brand new, right there, you're going to love that. And why are used BMWs so cheap? I really dive into that whole conversation. You're going to love that video. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. You all have a lovely day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.